All right, welcome folks. I am going to read our official spiel calling the date today is October 1st, 2020 Historic Districts Commission meeting to order. Welcome everyone. We will be reviewing one continued public hearing today, and we have 3 new public hearings. And as you all may know, in accordance with Mass executive order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, we are able to do this online. People can also call in and the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide comment. To do so, if you're familiar with Zoom, use the raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in, *9 will get you your hand raised. We're typically a small enough group even this evening, so I think Heather will probably unmute microphones and folks can comment, but we may turn video off to or ask people to turn off if things get glitchy. Once the commission has reviewed the application and the commissioners have discussed the application, we will open it up to public comment. Then we will make whatever action we're going to make. And after that, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. And after that's all done, as I mentioned, I'll ask for a motion. We'll do a roll call vote and go from there. Okay, makes sense? I think that's everything. So without further delay, why don't we get started, pardon me, with our continued public hearing. This is 155 Monument Street. I see Martha Gray's here. This is to a certificate application to construct a new detached garage structure that includes a home office up above with site improvements, including paving and walkways, to repaint the entire house, replace existing doors and lighting to match the new structure. We had a site visit this morning. Thank you, Martha, for having us over. I was late, so I went after everyone else had left. I think we saw a mock-up of the proposed ridge height, and then the driveway was staked out. We have had several letters come in on this application. 3 have been posted. Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. 3 are on the website. We've had a few others come in by email. I just want to ask real quick, do we have to read those into the record tonight or what?
Yeah, you could read those into the record.
Okay, but the ones on the website are just, they're already posted. I don't have to, I mean, I'm really just asking if we, for protocol's sake, do we need to read those as well?
I think if the person that wrote the letter is here and wants to speak, they can. Otherwise,
Okay.
you can just read their letter.
So I'll wait until after we all discuss and then when in our comment period. Okay, so why don't we, I think what I'd like to do is remind, I don't think all the commissioners were at the presentation the first time. So Martha, let me ask you, are you the only person on your, let's call it team here this evening? Nope, I muted you, or you're muted. Can Martha unmute herself? Or do we have to? There you go.
Okay. Yes, Rob is here with me.
Okay. All right, so I think we should just look, Heather, maybe you could put up the new material. I think we had some new elevations since the last meeting that I'd like the commission to just make sure we look at. These put the new proposed structure in context with the house. You can see the floor plan there, or the site plan, sorry. And I'd like to just walk through those and see if we have any thoughts or questions. So I think that's the one there. Okay. So we looked at the site this morning. Maybe if sorry to keep making you bounce around, could you look at the site plan, Heather, real quick? All right, so here's the proposed structure. There's the lot. You can see the proposed driveway. I think that driveway is different from what was staked out this morning.
Are you talking, I cannot see what you're putting up. Is it the colored illustration?
It is not. It's black and
Okay.
white.
It's black and white. There are two black and whites. We did revise it. We took out the parking spot in the front and we narrowed the circular drive so it's more of an in and out for UPS.
Okay, so maybe this is the one. It's not quite a circle. It's a little bit of a.
Yes.
Okay,
Not
so that's
quite
correct. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so there's the site plan, and then maybe if we could look at the elevations real quick. So there we go. So there's the elevation. I think we saw the ridge height to the proposed second structure. It's slightly lower than the back. It's about the maximum height, as I understand it, is the middle of ridge of the main house. It's about that high. And yeah, and then we're going down. That's a view from the street. So it's certainly in context. And that was that. Okay, so so that was really, after we reviewed the application the last time, the issues we wanted to see were the ridge height and the driveway. So why don't we, can we leave these up, Heather, while we go around and ask for comments? So why don't I, if I could be so bold, ask the commission for comments. And I'll just pick on you in the order on my screen. So Catherine, may I ask for your thoughts first? Oh, you're muted though. Sorry, we all have to unmute ourselves.
There we go. Catherine Masta.
Hi, Catherine.
Hello. So I mean, I was pleased to see that the ridgeline height was consistent with the existing structure. I do feel also that in terms of the design integration, it's very well done, and I think primarily the view from the street. So in other words, from the public way, it's going to be, again, well integrated and not in any way offensive or any reason for concern. I do just acknowledge, without any real sort of further comment about it, but I acknowledge the setback issue in terms of proximity to the property line for the abutting neighbors behind. And I believe that's really sort of out of our purview. But I did just want to acknowledge that I do understand physically that it is close.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any other comments, or we'll circle around again, but that's your, for now, yeah? Okay, thank you. Melinda, may I pick on you next? Now you've got to unmute yourself when I pick on you, I think, because I think we're all muted. There you go.
So as I'm looking at this drawing right now, the fenestration on the new garage, those windows on the top look quite a lot larger than the windows on the front of the house. Is that the case, or is that is that just the drawing?
That is a good question. I can't answer that. Martha, do you happen to know?
We haven't done any sizing on windows as of yet. It's pretty close in size. I think the ones on the front of the house are darkened to look like 3, and you don't have that shading. But I think they're pretty close. We've just done the sketches. The construction drawings haven't been done.
Right. So
Gotcha.
in this drawing, obviously they look a lot larger, and I guess my point is I think it would be more attractive if they were about the same size. I just think that would be a better look. Of course, the other thing here is that the garage looks like it's really close, when in fact, from the street, it's really pretty far back, which is a plus. So I have no other comments. I think that the circle is absolutely necessary to get in and out of your driveway. And although it'd be nice if you didn't have to do it, but I don't see how you I think you have to do it.
Thank you, Melinda. Paul, may I choose you next? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, is the new garage building, just remind me, is it physically attached to the existing building or is it a separate building?
It's separate.
Separate.
Right. So why, or let me say, could that building be moved further back such that a car could turn in front of it?
I don't think you'd have enough space. It
Even to
can
pull,
move.
even to pull into the left and turn around?
I don't think so. We
So-
could.
so- go ahead.
Did I talk about this at that?
Go
I
ahead.
don't think we have enough room to turn around. It's tight on that side.
So, well, I understand the way it's laid out now, but could the building be moved a little bit further back such that as you approach the garage, you could take a left turn, park a car there, turn around there?
At some point, or if it's.
I mean, how when you take a car, I guess preliminarily, is that a functional garage? Is it going to be used, among other things, as a garage?
Yes, it's a one-car garage. We
Okay,
could-
so when that car backs out, is there room for it to turn?
I mean, a little bit, just as if you were coming out of the other garage. We can move the building back, probably a foot or a foot and a half, to give it more space. We do have the setback. We do have the space, and it would give it a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah, so it's not breathing room that concerns me. What's running through my mind, I continue to have heartburn over the new driveway in the front yard, just because I think it's disproportionate to the amount of land area.
Right.
Now, I'm not entirely sure we have a right to say you can't do that, but just from the aesthetics of it, to tear up that much land and more or less hardscape it just so, quote, the UPS man can make a U-turn as opposed to turning a vehicle, seems to me to be, let's say, not desirable. So what was occurring to me was whether or not you have the space, since this is a detached building, to do what I presume a vehicle backing out of the garage has to do, namely turn around and come out toward the street. I mean, that is going to happen, isn't it?
So we could move the building back a little bit. We have space, and then between, we probably could do a turnaround between the house and the detached garage.
Well, so tell me why that would be a much less satisfactory solution. I mean, in some respects, I guess it answers itself. For the UPS guy, he would have to drive to the back of the building, pull in to the left of the garage and turn around. So it's not as intuitive, but you'd save a lot of front yard, wouldn't you? What? Have you thought that through? Why have you rejected it?
I haven't rejected it. We've had a couple of sketches done. We could possibly do a little courtyard in front of the addition on the house there. And if we push the detached garage back a little bit, we could create, it's a lot of asphalt there too, even though we're doing the chipped seal. But it's definitely, I haven't rejected it at all. I really wanted to see what you folks thought about the circular drive and if you thought that was pretty and historic.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'll shut up, but I mean, my take is that if you could eliminate the circular drive, that would be desirable. But
Right.
I hasten to add that I'm not too sure we can mandate that.
Right.
I don't know. I'll defer to the chairman on that.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying, Paul. I totally understand.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul. Let's just finish. Let's go around the horn first. Let's hear from other commissioners. Thank you both. I see Dennis has joined us, but Luis, why don't I ask you if you would, sir?
I think there are
Thoughts?
three issues. First, the first issue regarding the circular driveway, it's going to be a very small driveway because it has to be small in order to keep, the proportions with the house and the actual available space. I don't foresee a UPS person being able to use that driveway. There's a beautiful tree there that should stay, and that if that tree stays, then it becomes an intimate space that can be used by a car, but it mostly will be used by pedestrians that are coming to what's now defined as the front of the house. So if we look at it from the perspective that we live in a car society and that we need to drive up to the front of the house, then a small, intimate driveway may be appropriate and actually can be accomplished in the space that you have there. But beyond that, i.e. bringing the FedEx guy in, that driveway will not be functional. So I think that that's the decision that in order to help the UPS guy, some other solutions should need to be sought. As far as the building is concerned, the additional building is concerned, I conceptualize it as three issues. One is the location, the second is the size, and the other one is the integration that it will have with the house. I am familiar with some neighbors that have expressed either approval or disapproval of the project. But overall, I believe that the space to where the building is, it's proposed, it's appropriate and it's adequate to harbor such building. So I don't think that the issue of the location of the building needs to be changed or anything. The second part is the size, and the size, it's a big building. It's slightly smaller than the height of the rest of the house, but it's big. So if we can, in order to remove the sort of the massing issue that we always worry about, that building would have to be very tightly integrated with the house. And that brings me to the third issue, which is that I think that this building has to be closely integrated to the house in terms of the style of the building. It has to be very consistent with the house, such that when you look at it from Monument Road, then you think that it's just an extension of the house and not a separate building. If from that perspective, the size of the windows are crucial, because those windows cannot be bigger than the windows that you see when you take a glance at the front of the house. So the windows that you have described as not being really set on stone need to be set in stone in such way that they will be no bigger and totally integrated with the windows that you see from the front and even from the side. Finally, I think that you still have a turning problem, because I made a turn there today. I understand that I followed some illustrious predecessors like Heather, which made a 5-point turn.
Yeah, you did a 4-point turn, Luis.
I did a 4, you see, but
Yeah.
I'm male and I'm supposed to be an expert these days. But it's not that simple, and the reason is because you have a beautiful set of plants. You have some outstanding hydrangeas there that are essential to the site, so they should not move. So I think that in the whole understanding of the project, there has to be the idea that the UPS guy is going to have to make a 5-point turn, and that's occasionally there's going to be a truck that's going to have to back into Monument Road.
Right.
I think that those are the compromises that you have to make in order to accomplish what you're looking for, which is the increased space, garage, and bicycle shed, etc.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Liz.
And last but not least, Dennis, I have to unmute you, and were you able to join the group this morning? I don't know. Oh, you have to unmute yourself though. You have to unmute your mic, Dennis. There, there you are. There you are.
Hear me?
Yep.
I was not able to join, but I did come by later and take a look. I'm new to this whole project because I wasn't there at the last meeting, unfortunately. Okay. My comments basically echo everybody else's. I think everybody's made good points about this, particularly on the windows and how they should look. I can't get out of my mind this project resembling the one that's on Lowell Road, where there's that little cottage and they put this huge addition on the side of it, which is unfair because this is, of course, much smaller. I don't understand why the UPS guy has to go down the driveway at all. Can he walk? I don't understand why that's a valid point. And I agree with Paul. I don't like the semicircular driveway in front. I just think it eats up too much land.
Yeah.
You know, this is a precious project because of the size of this house, which is very charming. So I think they've done a good job. I mean, they're working hard at this thing. I think it's bigger than I would like, but then, you know, it's a tough choice. I mean, in terms of what they want and need and the space, and I think overall they've done a good job. In summary, I get rid of the circular driveway in front and I make sure the windows, as Luis said and others said, that those windows match the front.
Okay.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, so we've heard from all commissioners present. I don't think I need to summarize. I think we're all pretty much on the same page. Actually, Heather, I'm sorry, would you mind just leaving those elevations up? My only comment about the massing, and I have a sensitivity like Luis's, is, I know it's just the elevation drawings, it feels a little tall for me, and I don't really know the ceiling height issues. And I almost wonder if there's some way to sit it down a little bit. Because
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's not exactly, it doesn't really need to tie into the main ridgeline of the house. Can you pull down that elevation, Heather? Sorry, so we can see the top. In other words, it doesn't really need to align, especially because it's a separate building. And I think the stylistic match is more important. So if it could somehow, if the architect could look at dropping the ridge lines a little bit, compressing the height, that would feel conceptually a little bit more bungalowish to me. And that's just my gut telling me that. The driveway, I don't live on Monument Street, and we don't have that problem on my street, so I sympathize with people on busy streets. I think it's really up to you. And I actually don't know, and Heather, this is a question for you. I don't think we can say one way or the other about if it's meeting the building department's guidelines for the ratio of paved to unpaved area on the site. Is there not a requirement for that? Can someone remind me?
I believe there may be a requirement.
So Martha, you may need to check that, by the way, because I think there's an impervious surface limit.
And also getting a second curb cut approved by the Public Works.
Right. They may nix it for some
Yeah.
other reason.
They may solve the
There may be some tax reason that I don't even understand how taxes and curb cuts work in this town, but you know, you may have Homeland Security on your door the next day or something.
Great.
So that's all I had to offer. And
may I ask you a question here?
Sure, of course, yes.
So I will have Ramsey look at that. I'll make sure that the windows are the same size as the front.
Pardon me, also, there looks like there is a square window on the side elevation next to the door. I think if all the windows on the new building match, or closely as possible match the sizes and shapes of the ones on the existing house, that's
okay. So that window matches the one to the far left on the southern side of the front door, that little one. So that matches.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure about this one. There is a ceiling height for an office issue. Should I just have him drop it as much as he can.
Yeah, without it, look, it's not, I think my sense of the group is that no one's really objecting to the aesthetic, and it is set back from the road and all, but it just,
Right.
it just feels a little big, and I'm sure Rob knows what we're getting at. It's not a deal breaker, but yeah, if he could look
Okay.
at it, it'd be great.
Okay.
And the driveway thing, Heather, I hate to keep putting you on the spot. I don't think that's something we approve or don't approve.
I mean, yeah, you guys have approval over any hardscaping.
Yeah.
Hardscape,
Any
okay.
change to hardscaping on a property in a historic district, you have jurisdiction
Gotcha.
over.
Okay. And so maybe now I've got the microphone, Martha, let me ask a totally dumb question, and you may have
Okay.
answered it already. So if there was a way to pull into the existing driveway and then pull left into, let's say, a parking spot, transact UPS business or whatever, and then do a 3-point turn and back out, is that something you've looked at already?
No, it's not, but we do have room in the setbacks to move the building a little bit.
Oh, I mean up front. I mean almost like you got the circular driveway, but instead of going all the way, just stop it at like 10 feet and, and make it a little wider. And so it's a little pull in,
Okay.
park and walk up
Do
to the
it-
front door and then pull out again.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, out front. Yeah, that bothers me. I mean, it all bothers me. I don't want a parking spot there. I don't want anyone to stick a car there. For neighbors too, they have to look at a car sitting out there. It's a tough, I mean, I can definitely work on this, and
Okay. I mean, for me, it's not a deal breaker. I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask if the commission, anybody have any further thoughts before we open it up to public comment? Maybe just wave at me. Paul, yes. You have to unmute yourself though, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the windows on the garage building. The fact that they're further back, if it's important that they be somewhat larger than the windows on the front of the house, it would seem to me that because the building's further back, the aesthetics would be fine because they'll look smaller because they're further in the distance.
Yeah, it's pretty far back. It doesn't
Yeah, it's
look.
pretty far back. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally feel very rigid about matching the nearly exact dimensions of the front of the house windows. But
Okay.
that's just a thought.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's proportion. It's the aesthetic proportion that you ought to be looking at, not measuring by inches.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
And one last question, Martha. These are schematic drawings, correct? Schematic design. So
Yeah.
one of the conditions of our decision one way or another, I think, would be to look at these at the next phase to just sort of check in. Would that be
Okay.
agreeable?
That's agreeable.
Okay. All right. So why don't unless I don't see any other raised hands on commission, why don't we open it up to public comment? So I'm going to just start by saying there are 3 letters of support for the project that are posted on the website. And actually, those are all the ones I have, Heather. I don't know if there were others. That's all I received, I think.
There were only 3 letters.
Okay, so from a Frustayer, I'm probably mispronouncing the name, a Brox, and a Griffiths. And I don't see any of those folks here. Okay, and all of those letters were essentially in support of the project. I don't know.
Nice.
There was at least one negative.
That one I don't have. Do you have that handy, Heather? Maybe while you find that, I can read these other ones just real quick for the record. This is Missy and Chris Griffiths, 50 Monument. They're addressing it to me, the chair of the HGC. As residents of Lower Monument Street, we'd like to submit our strong support for the proposed renovation plans of the Gray residence at 155 Monument. We reviewed the plans that the Grays have submitted and believe that the proposed exterior renovations and garage addition are very thoughtful and show a commitment to being nicely scaled and historically appropriate. The new garage structure is tied nicely to the original architectural detail of the main house, and as cited, is in keeping with many properties on both sides of Lower Monument. that have similar detached accessory structures set further back from both the main house and the street. We also support the proposed driveway. We believe that much like 41 Monument Street and some others further up the street, the Gray's proposal for an extended circular driveway would be appropriate and in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. So that's one. I know I
Nice.
sound like a carnival barker the way I'm reading, but there you go. This is from Andrea Brox, 14 Mildred Circle. Dear Heather, I've lived in Concord for 28 years as an avid walker. I've passed the bungalow at 155 Monument Street thousands of times. Literally, I've always admired it and appreciated its quiet simplicity in spite of the 1950s, I'm guessing, addition. Ouch. The new proposed detached garage structure under the HDC's commission consideration will, I believe, enhance the integrity of the original house and help take the curse off the addition. I wholeheartedly
It is a
support.
curse.
Wow.
It's
There's
a
some
curse.
strong emotions
It is.
there.
Yes, yes.
And the last one was from someone named Nina Frusteyer. I think I'm butchering the pronunciation of the name there. It'll
Yeah,
be right in the
I
record.
don't know.
Hi, Heather. I understand there's some resistance to the renovation of 155 Monument Street. I live at 93 Monument Street and often walk by the house. I've seen the drawings and the renovation plans seem in keeping with the neighborhood and the site. I think it'll look great. I'm not sure I have
Oh.
any say in this without having attended the planning meeting, but I thought I'd share my thoughts. Warmest regards, Nina. So
Nice.
those are our three letters. Did you find there was, I saw some communication that was in objecting, but
I can't find anything in my email.
Paul, do you happen to, I remember that too. And
I can't put my finger on it, but it was the neighbor, I thought, immediately next door who complained that it was too large and monolithic and was therefore going to be overwhelming because of its proximity to the neighbor, the immediately adjacent neighbor.
Was that that was comment in the meeting last time, I think. Maybe that's where.
I thought something was written, but maybe I'm wrong.
I second Paul because I saw the same letter, but I just reviewed all my emails that had possible keywords and I could not find it. Maybe it was retracted.
By the internet. It could happen.
No, by, you can retract a letter.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you can. You can do a letter.
Oh, God, I should learn how to do that. I send emails off all the time and I think, I can't take that back.
You have a certain amount of time.
All right. Well, let's maybe if anybody finds it while we're open for public comment, why don't I open it up to public comment on 155 Monument Street for the proposed work on the building, a certificate of appropriateness. So if you have a public comment, I think you could just raise your hand. We have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guests. Heather, do you see any raised hands? Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am. Mary Ellen, I see on your screen there. So could you unmute yourself, please? There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hello.
Tell us your name again.
Yes, Mary Ellen Walters, and I live at 167 Monument, right next door.
Okay,
and
welcome, Mary Ellen.
Abutting neighbors were at the last meeting and spoke against this. And so we did not send letters, but I will be very happy to supply one. I believe as my other neighbors will.
Okay.
It's the size, we're not opposed to a garage in the back there, but it's the size of it. It's the second story. It's the proportion. Now, I trust the HDC about proportionate size, but this just seems like a little apartment building. And so we're very much opposed to it. And I will send a letter if you'll read it.
That would help just for the record, frankly.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I have some correspondence. I actually asked Martha this morning. Martha, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Well, actually, is there other public comments? Sorry, I don't mean to pull it back into the, yes, ma'am. if you could unmute yourself and tell us your name for the record, please.
Yes, hello. My name is Neela Srinath, and I live on 20 Lang Street. We are direct abutters from behind. The property backs up to our house. So
Yes.
we will be quite impacted by this pretty large structure. From our perspective, and even from the public pathway, you're going to see this, 30-foot by 21-foot wall on the side that we are facing. And, the height of the structure, it's pretty significant. It's a large scale structure. And I think I agree also with Mary Ellen. We're not opposed to a garage structure. I know there's already a two-car garage, but we're really not opposed at all to a single-car garage with maybe a shed on the side for the cycles, because I think the biggest issue that Martha had mentioned was having vehicles outside and the bikes. So I totally, we're fine with that. But a two-story structure, plus the girth of it, it just seems very large for that area. And when we were in front of this body 3-4 years ago, I remember very clearly we were told when we had our two-car garage, which was separate before, and we had it attached to our house, that we were very clearly told by this body that, we're very particular about garages, not overpowering the house, and about driveways not looking like airport landing strips. I think you can go back 4 years and look at the minutes. And I think there was a 45-minute discussion about this. And, we were very clearly told that, this commission takes very seriously, because there's been other houses that have come and put large garages that kind of really overshadow the house or, compete with the house. So it feels a little inequity here about kind of what we had gone through and what is being passed here. So we're just a little surprised at this turn of events. I trust this body. You have a lot of experience, but please go back, 4 years and take a look at 20 Lang Street, and you can see the comments that we had, and we took to heart, and we really tried to kind of put it in part of our house. And I don't think our renovation got any sort of negative feedback. So I just want to put that out. Like I said, we're not opposed to a single car garage, but and some space to put the cycles, but something this monolithic. And the other thing is, it's not just the backyard. That public way goes right by, and it's going to be very clearly visible from there. So I'd like to register that we strongly oppose and are concerned about kind of, the difference in kind of what we had heard and what's being spoken about now. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Other public comment? I'm looking around for hands. All right, so I don't see any other public comments. So one thing I will say as the chair is, and I'm not joking here, we do reserve the right to be inconsistent. We try to apply our let's call it wisdom equally, but really every case is different, and we do take the design and massing and construction of any outbuilding quite seriously. So I just wanted to say that. I did look up and down Monument Street because I'm always interested in sort of context and precedent along the same road. And there are other, pardon me, outbuilding addition type situations along Monument Street. I can't say I did an exhaustive search, but I don't think this is without precedent. Of course I'd have to look. I do think it's important to keep the context in mind. So.
Peter, we do have a hand raised.
Who raised their hand? Sorry, I didn't see.
Stuart Wilson.
Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Could you unmute yourself, please? I'm sorry, I didn't see. I was looking at my other screen.
Oh yeah, here. Is it all right?
Yes.
Is it all right now?
Yep. Welcome.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sort of seconding Neela. We are at 30 Lang Street, which is the property, the next property over from her, and where the gray house is, the Gray's gray house is already very visible from our property, especially in the winter. and it's pretty high already, and it presents a kind of uniform wall on the west side. And I know it's not your remit to look at things from behind the house. You're mainly concerned with how things look from the front, and that's certainly quite proper. But here you've got two neighbors that are really quite concerned about the mass of this proposed structure. And it does, and there's a way that it sits there, at least as shown in the drawing, where I think that from my angle, our angle, which is really diagonal to the house, there isn't even any space. I don't think there's going to be any space between the new structure and the house, any visual space, or there's a pass through there, but it's not wide enough, or it's not at the right angle, so that the whole thing will look like a wall probably twice the width of the existing back wall of the house. So and you do get, as Mary Ellen said, a kind of an apartment house feeling by trying to visualize that. I'm a little bit surprised that the Grays did not leave. I suppose this is all over with and gone now, but that they did not leave the trees that were when they moved into the house, that I think were behind their house, leave them there so as to have some cover and some shield, but instead they removed them so that particularly from Shree's house or Neela's house, this gray wall will be very prominent. And finally, I was surprised. Maybe that is another department's business, but the structure seems to be only about 5 feet from the north side of the property and from the west side of the property, and that's awfully close. And they do not. There is not indeed enough room to move the structure significantly to make more room for turning around back there, it seems to me. So I don't remember what Neela mentioned something about making sure her garage was far enough from the property line. It is, I think it's 15 feet. And this was, we made an addition quite a while ago that was also had to be far enough. It was definitely farther than 5 feet. So I'm very concerned that way. I think that somehow the property is really telling you that this building is too big.
At least too high.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stuart. I did not mean to not see you there. Is there other?
Oh no, that's right. It was somehow turned off or something. I don't know.
That's okay.
But when you turned everybody on, I was over to your left instead of to your right.
Aha.
So that's why.
All right, thank you, sir. Mary Ellen, I see you've got your hand up again. Yes, ma'am. Up, but you're muted. Sorry, I think I'm going to buy a T-shirt. Please unmute yourself. That would. Sorry. Go ahead.
It takes a minute for it to come up on my screen.
I know.
Sorry.
No, we're all.
All right. Thank you. Just one final comment. I think with the neighbors, what we're all trying to say is the garage shed is fine. It's the second floor office that makes it so huge. This building is actually bigger than my 2-car garage if you actually measure my garage. And it's probably going to be higher because of the second story. And then it's put on a very small part of the backyard. It's such a tiny backyard. And then we've got this massive building. So if it were just, for the bikes and also for the garage, even though it's a 1.5-car garage, it's not even a 1-car garage. I think the garage doors look bigger, at least on the drawings. But if it were a 1-car garage with a shed, we have no problem with that. It would be, I think, more in proportion. And I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just giving you the opinion, I think, of the abutting neighbors, that it would be more in proportion. It would be smaller than the house, and it would be in proportion for the backyard. But it's the second story making it so massive on that tiny backyard that is just troubling to the abutting neighbors, not to someone way down on Mildred Circle who might be walking by, but actually just the massive size of it just seems so out of proportion for the neighborhood that we live in. So thank you for
All right, thank
listening
you.
again. I appreciate it.
I actually have a question, and maybe this is for Martha. Are these setbacks all up to snuff? Has this been run by the building department?
Yeah, it's actually not 5 feet. I think it's 6 feet because we have an overhang, a roof overhang. Just gives a little more space. But yeah, everything is actually with the FAR, it could be 1,700 square feet, the whole building. It could be larger. And our whole point was not to add on to the house and make that larger. And that's why we need an office over this one-car garage. And it's a one-car garage. The door is, it's for one car. But to keep the house a bungalow and not add a second story and not add more off of the back where you have this, where it doesn't look good anymore. The roof line just doesn't look good. That's why we proposed, this garage with an office above. And it's a small office. It's not an apartment building. It's pretty small.
Understood. One thing I'm realizing, and somebody raised the issue, we aren't just concerned about we're concerned with any view from the public way. And I think actually this building in that regard has almost no back, because I can't remember if the woods behind, is that conservation land?
It's the bike path. I'm sorry, I'm plugging myself in here.
Okay, so I think this really, we have to look at all of these elevations, and what I'm realizing as I'm speaking is we haven't seen all elevations of the structure. We haven't seen the elevation from Lang Street, nor have we seen the elevation from the back, which I know would be similar to the front. So
you can't really, you'll see the north from the bike path with the 3 little windows. It looks like a little barn. And you can hardly see, I mean, there's woods and you can see it, but it's not in view of the bike path.
right, but I'm thinking from Lang Street, if you're coming to, is it Lang Street, the next street? I think you'd see the whole thing from
Are you talking about driving down the street?
Yes.
You won't be able to see it. There, 20 Lang, Neela's house is south of our southwest corner. And then Mr. Wilson's house is further down Lang. So driving by their house, you would not be able to see this structure. Driving down Lang Street.
Well, I sort of disagree a little bit, but hang on a sec. Did anyone, I didn't go down Lang Street this morning, I have to say. Did anyone from the group go down Lang Street this morning? Well, it is a bit of a dilemma. I'm just looking at I'm looking at an aerial photograph of the neighborhood.
Right.
And the thing is, so we're often in this position. So by right, property owners can do all kinds of things in town. Our job is, of course, this kind of gray zone of sort of regulation, sort of balancing the overall aesthetic of the town. So, our charge is when we're all dead and gone, we've done something that thinks about the whole character of the town and tries to strike a balance between individual property owners' needs and the broader community. So that's why we're delegating this evening. I just wanted to kind of remind everyone. What are we seeing here, Heather?
This is the house on Monument Street.
Okay, so I see we're
Right.
looking from the helicopter. There we go. Okay, so, and the site is, we can see it's sort of tucked into the corner there behind, yep. Let's see. Well, let me ask another question of the homeowner. Is there consideration of landscape screening of any sort around the structure?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to put trees in. We just haven't done the landscape plan yet. We've done the hardscape, but not the landscape. But yeah, we will put trees in the back and.
Okay. Well, I think what I heard from the commission this evening is not outright opposition or refusal, but questions about mostly detailed questions, but a kind of approach to the overall kind of massing of the structure, and that the details really will be important on a site like this because it's, as I say, it's got no back. It's sort of visible from all sides. So part of me wants to suggest we ask the designer to go back and do some suggested modifications, and that the landscape be looked at a little more carefully in terms of buffering between the property and abutters, and then we look at it again together. I don't think we need to go out to the site again, but I think these things we're suggesting, the slight modifications to sort of heights and details of windows, and I think that will help address concerns about the kind of the size and mass of the structure. Do you see what we're saying, Martha? Do you agree?
The first building that Ramsey designed was larger, and I did not want to do it. I mean, it's a one-car garage. I think the office space above is 270 square feet. It has a staircase to get up, and it has a bike shed on the side. I mean, I think it's really sweet and charming. And, you know, when you walk down Monument and you look at 41 Monument, they have the little structure in the back. You look at 93 Monument, they have the barn on the side. And it looks nice. And that's what we were trying to accomplish. That's what Ramsey was trying to accomplish with this. It's not a garage and a half. It's a one-car garage. He did not add extra height to the ceiling height. So I don't know how much that can be lowered. It is for an office space too. We need the office space, and don't want to add on to the back of the house. That was another proposed, and I thought it looked horrible. That would be facing Lang Street backyard, and it just wasn't pretty at all. The roof line starts to get pretty ugly in a bungalow when you start adding on. So this was the solution. And I mean, I think it's charming. I think it looks like a little barn, and it's very far at the end of Monument. And I talked to Ray Matt, and it meets all of the guidelines. It's under square footage for what you could put in there. The other point I want to make is this is a very low house compared to the neighbors. You know, Mary Ellen next door, 167 Monument, their addition on the back is very, very tall. And this is a low house, and we're trying to keep this structure in line with the house, but we don't have the benefit of, this huge addition in the back. And the same with Neela in the back. They had a one-car garage there when they renovated, and their attached garage now has a second story that we can see from our backyard with big windows. And I don't know what's above there, if it's a bedroom or an office, but that's a two-story structure as well. Now the setbacks have to be 15 feet because it's attached to their house, and this is not. So this is as you know, the rules, it doesn't have to be.
Or a separate structure. Okay,
15.
that's
It's a
right.
separate structure.
That's fine.
And we did not put it 5 feet from the property line. We tried to add a little space around it. And we took down 2 trees that were dead. That, you know, this was a neglected property. And we had to take those down or they would fall on the house. So those 2 trees, we didn't take them out because we didn't like trees. And we will landscape the property. I mean, we'll put trees back, but not until we renovate.
Okay, well, I think in any event, I think we can agree we need to see the next iteration of design drawings. So
Okay.
my sense of this is, here's where I think we stand, and I'll ask the commission for a final round of comments. I don't think we object to this on principle. It is your right to do this. We've made our comments about trying to, you know, scale it down a little bit is probably the way to say it, to minimize its mass. I don't think any of us think it's too big, you know, from a kind of proportional perspective, but we do hear the abutters' concerns, and you know, nobody that I know likes having their property line crowded in any way, shape, or form. So trying to find a solution that sort of meets a number of needs is the trick here. So so again, I don't think we object to this, but I'm not sure we're ready to vote on it and approve it either, because I think there are some modifications that could be made, even if they're small, that would help, I think, ease some of our concerns about the overall impact on the property. And I'm looking at the commissioners to see if anyone agrees with me or disagrees with me or thinks I'm nuts. But let me ask the commissioners. Luis. You have to unmute yourself though, sir. There you are.
I do not believe that from the perspective of our commission, we can have an outright refusal to this project. And addressing Mrs. Strinas, the decisions of the commission are not static. You know, things change, and one of the roles of this commission is to reflect the changes that occur and make decisions based upon changes that have taken place. So I don't think that from that perspective we can either from that perspective or the perspective of the aesthetics itself, we can outright deny this application. On the other hand, the neighbors have a very important point, which is that there are some subtle things in this structure. And one of them, it's the perceived size of it, or the perceived mass. And it may be helpful to make attempts to diminish its proportion a little bit. And you know, my first impression when I went to the site this afternoon was to think that it was too high. But of course, if you go to it very analytically and you compare it with the height of the house, which is not that high, et cetera, then you know, I had to abandon my argument. But there's no question that if this was a little smaller, that it would create some more tranquility and the potential to accept it. So I think that the applicant should entertain those options. But I don't think that we are seeing something that it's not approvable. But I think as a matter of principle, we should explore as many options as possible.
Thank you. Let me just go around real quick. Paul, can I ask you if you have any input, last words?
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with what others have said. However, while consistency may be the hobgoblin of small minds, I think that we should understand what the commission did, as Mary Ellen suggests. I mean, we ought to know the context and we ought to take that into account. If for no other reason than fairness, the appearance of fairness is a critical aspect of the work we do and something we want to achieve, obviously. So I would not necessarily say that another site visit when we have some of these considerations in mind wouldn't be a good idea after we have potentially a modified design. We understand the neighbor concerns now. We have a chance to get a little bit of the history on 20 Lang so that we're specifically aware of what the commission did, because I think that's relevant even if life moves on and we take a different view here. So I'm in agreement that there's something here that can be built and get approved. I'm certainly not prepared tonight to approve it. And I think the owner has shown a lot of sensitivity to the comments, and I'd like to see some modifications and understand better what the neighbors are up against.
Thank you, Paul. Catherine, I'm just going to go around and see if you have any last thoughts, but you've each got to unmute. There you go. Oh, you muted yourself again.
I agree with Paul and Luis. I think that if the homeowner is amenable to looking at some redesign, even if it's, more of a subtle redesign, with, a view to trying to lower the roof line a little bit, that would be, something that I think would be a really valuable exercise. And I also agree with you, Peter. I think if we can get some assurances, or if the homeowner can explore some landscaping options for especially that rear abutter situation and view, I think I would feel much more comfortable about that sort of making the redesign or the proposal more amenable to all. And so I'd like to see that, and as a result, also agree with Paul and Luis that I'm not ready to vote tonight, because I would like to see if there can be some redesign proposed.
Thank you, Catherine. Melinda, may I ask you next? Yes.
Well, I'd like to see a couple of pictures of other properties on the street and the garages they've done. I happen to know that next door to 73, which is the same side of the street, I just don't know the number, they put in a big garage with a much bigger garage with a whole second story. I don't know what year that was done, but I know it's there. It's a little closer to town. But I'd like to see some of the other specific locations that she mentioned, one that looks like a barn, so that we can see.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, there you are. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, sir. Oh, you're still muted. There you go. No, you're still.
Got it. Finally.
Okay.
Sorry. Wasn't working very well. I'm taken by the comments made by the neighbors on Lang Street and their viewpoint and the right of way. I think we need another site visit at some point because even though I walked around today, I did not look at it from that angle. I had a basic question, and that is, and I'm new to this, so you probably already answered this. What's the priority for the homeowner? Is it the office or the garage?
Well, we need an office. We have an extra vehicle, and we just don't want to build an office back there. So we need the office for my husband working at home now. Okay. So both are the priority.
Yeah, 3-car garages, I'm not big on it. I have to tell you, maybe I have a prejudice against it, particularly in a tight historic area. The necessity for a 3-car garage does not turn me on. So, and I'm sympathetic to the neighbors and the fact they want a lower building. So I just throw that out as something to consider, that if this building is too large, maybe we should take a look at lowering it considerably and abandoning the garage.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Did I get everyone? I think I did. I see Jane here, but you can't comment because you're just our select board representative.
We do have a butter comment. Neela has her hand raised.
All right, Neela, tell us.
Yes, I just had kind of 2 points to make. One is when we were told, I don't know if this is still holds, but if a property is visible from the reformatory trail, the bike trail, then that's under the purview of the HTC. And this will very clearly, I invite you all to come to my property, and you can, our property goes up to the bike trail. So this will be seen very, very clearly. This building will be very visible from the bike trail. So that's a public way, I assume. So I just wanted to make that, I use the trail a lot, so I do know. The other thing is, I want to just mention, Martha mentioned our 2-car garage. We have only a 2-car garage. We did not add a 2-car garage to existing garage. So it's a very different in, I think, in terms of kind of what we did versus adding a third garage along with this structure on top. So I just want to make that point. We don't have a 3-car garage.
That's right. And I think we do know that the bike trail is considered the public way. So
it is still. Okay, I thought I remembered. Sorry, that it was.
Well, and that's where, frankly, what we would have to do is look from the bike trail.
Right.
Dennis, did you have a comment?
A clarification, and maybe I'm not remembering this correctly, but I thought historic district could not depend on landscaping for screening buildings, because landscaping dies. It's not there forever. So I thought we were averse to covering situations by saying plantings will take care of it. Heather, is that correct?
You can condition that landscaping is put in as screening, and that landscaping becomes the jurisdiction of the HDC going forward.
It has to be.
I see. So we have to make sure they maintain it, is what you're saying.
That's right.
Right.
And it doesn't, and I think you're right, Dennis, it doesn't take the place of the architecture, but it's part of the context, and it helps. And often we get into this with like air conditioning equipment, and that we aren't there yet with this project, but that's what the next step is, are we going to see little pieces of equipment on the. Mary Ellen, did you have one more comment? I would like to wrap this up, folks, because we've been at it for an hour. So Mary Ellen, please, go ahead.
Waiting, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, I was waiting for it to be allowed. All right, final comment, I promise. As far as the reformatory trail, I just wanted to follow up on Neela's comment about that, because when my husband and I went to the HDC to put in that small dog fence that you see behind our yard for our 2 Bijons, we had to go 3 times to get that small dog fence approved, because our property abuts the reformatory, all the conservation land there. So 3 times it took us to get through the HDC approval process, just because that dog pen can be seen in the woods during winter time when the trees are down. You can see into the neighborhood there. Now, my dog fence is very small. This building is going to be able to be seen, the height of it, completely from that reformatory trail. So I hope that you will look from that perspective as well, because it was a major concern just when we had to go through the HDC. So I would appreciate it. And thank you again for listening to all our concerns tonight.
Of course, that's why we're here. You're welcome. I mean, we are the sort of professional fuss budgets of the town, really.
Yes, that's right.
Our job is to be nudges and fuss budgets. So I'd like to sort of wrap this up and say we've been at this for an hour, so I feel like the town moderator. So we're not ready to vote on this tonight. I think what we need to do is suggest to Martha, the homeowner, that consider the design modifications we've been talking about. I think we need to research a little bit about up and down, especially Monument Street, specific precedents, and then to look at our own, and I'm going to say recent decisions on large outbuildings, whether they're garage or not, because we have been through this series of gates on a couple of projects in recent years, and it took a while to get to yes. If I recall correctly, I can think of one property in particular on Luis, what's the street you're on?
Lexington.
Lexington Road. Thank you. God, you think I've lived in Concord for 22 years.
He told me today.
Thank you. So that's what is on us. We've got some homework to do. Martha, if you're amenable, I'd like to suggest you go to your designer and ask and convey these comments, and then also consider some of the landscape comments as well, because I do think, again, especially on a property like this with close abutters, everything matters. Detail really does matter. And I think the further we can go in that direction, the better. So, yes, Dennis.
One last comment. I agree that we should look at neighboring properties. Can we get the dates of any of those outbuildings when they were built? Is that possible?
We probably can with a little digging around. And
I'll
it
tell
depends.
you why. It's hard to judge a new property against one that was existing before HDC was in business. So just because it happened to be there doesn't mean that it would meet our standards today. But if it was approved by HDC at some point, then I think it's a point of reference that we had to look at.
Yeah, and this is, unfortunately for the homeowner, this is triggering a discussion that really is sort of resounding within the last few years on a number of decisions we've had to sort of struggle with and make. So I think consistency is, while it may be a hobgoblin, it's actually something we also have to carefully consider. So I think what I'm going to do is suggest we, I'm drawing a blank on what I was going to suggest just now. Continue. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. We're going to continue this to the next meeting, I think, although I wanted to, why don't we do that? Because that's the way we would do it. So we would continue this for 2 weeks to October 15th.
As long as Martha believes that she can get the revised or any revisions done by then. Otherwise, we can put it off until the November meeting.
Okay, well, I know we could probably do our research by the 15th, I think.
Yeah, I think I might be able to do it. I think what I'm going to have Ramsey do is look at the front of the building and the scale of the windows. I'm not sure he can lower it much because of the ceiling height for the office. Would you prefer it looking like a barn instead of a garage?
Well, we can't really be prescriptive. Frankly, if there are options you'd like to show us, that's always helpful to us, because then, then we have a little bit more latitude in our comments, if you will.
Right, right.
So
you do have to remember that our house is very low, so to lower it with an office makes it tough. And
that was a good point someone made. I think you're right. You're right.
Yeah, we're the lowest house in the whole neighborhood. To say that it's massive and huge, we're surrounded by massively huge houses, and we are a tiny house. So to get the ceiling height to do anything is much lower on our scale with the bungalow. So it makes it tough. And we definitely want to be in keeping with the house and the bungalow, but we don't have the option of adding a huge addition. I think that would be worse off the back of the house. I think this, yeah.
So I think what we're looking at is we're really just, I think the commission is suggesting relatively minor modifications, but I think they will, in aggregate, they will matter.
Okay.
In my mind. And then we'll do our homework. So maybe what I'm going to ask the commission to do is to continue the hearing for 2 weeks. If in a couple of days it looks like you may or may not be ready, can you please let Heather know?
I will.
And then we'll kick it down the road another meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. I will try my best.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to look for a motion from the commission. I can't make the motions here.
I move that we, if I'm not muted.
We can hear you.
I'm live, okay. I move that we continue the application for certificate of appropriateness with respect to 155 Monument Street to the next meeting, assuming that's feasible, which is November
It's actually October
October
15.
15th.
October 15th.
Can I get a second on that, please?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Paul
Aye.
made the motion. Catherine? Aye. Melinda? Aye. Sorry, I'm going around. Luis?
Aye.
And Dennis? Where's Dennis? He somehow disappeared, but that's okay. I'm an aye. All right, so we're going to continue this for at least 2 weeks. I thank all of you, homeowner, abutters, neighbors, for participating in this process. We'll be a better community for it.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
All right, so we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you all. You're free to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, folks. That was a long discussion, but worth it, I think. So I think we're moving on to new public hearings. Welcome, Jane, by the way. I didn't say hello. Our first hearing is 8 River Street. This is a certificate of appropriateness to alter and install some fencing. And Colin Pease, I see someone is here from that applicant. And Heather, would you mind just putting up the application, if you would, please? All right, so this is 8 River Street. No, let's see. There was something about a rabbit in here, and oh, it was the Cocker Spaniel puppy chasing a squirrel or a rabbit. I was just, my heart warmed to read about animals in an application, so I just want to thank you for that. So tell us about this. Let's see, is the homeowner here? I see an email that says Grafton Pease, but you are mute. There you are. Hi. Hello.
I'm here. Hello.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know where Grafton Pease is named. That's my son who lives in Natick, but this is Colin Pease.
Well, welcome. Would you mind just walking us through your proposed fence a little bit? I'm looking at the application. We're looking at it online here.
Yeah, it's funny. And when I sent that to you, I could not get my printer to print in color, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Basically, we have the yard adjacent to Main Street. We have a very simple fence, which is a 2x4 and a 4x4 post with wire on it. That is right now the opening on the wire. I think it's 1 inch by 2 inch. Basically just to slow the dog down. It's about 30 inches high. And if you can see the bushes without black and white actually shows the fence a lot better, but it's generally from the Main Street side, it's really not visible or it's hard to see. But the Cocker Spaniel is he's 1 year old almost, and if he works at it, he's going to get over this. And so if there's a squirrel going there, I'm just worried he's going to jump over it. And so what I'd like to do is on each of the 4x4 posts, just put on a 10-inch extension and take the existing 2x4s off and raise them up to the top of the 10 inches and put them back on again and add a 2x4 underneath them just to keep them from sagging. So I don't think it changes very much. I have spoken with the Kings, who are my neighbor on Main Street, and also with several people on River Street, and nobody's had any objection to it. I don't think it will be very visible from the road or from outside.
My sense is you're right. It's especially if it's painted green. But so thank you for that. And there's another you're going to put another picket fence on the left side of your walkway, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. To match the one on the other side.
You can't really see it from there. You go. I have a cap picket fence on one side of the walkway, and I'd like to basically duplicate that on the other side of the walkway.
Great.
In that picture, the left side, and then put a gate across the front walk.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, does anyone with Cocker Spaniels have to recuse themselves or not? Because we get into real trouble here. Let me go around and see what the commission thinks. Paul, do you have any thoughts? There you go.
Yeah, I'm unclear. Can any of the fence, I understand the picket fence, you can see that from the street. Can you even see this wire mesh fence?
It's pretty
Like
hard.
2x4s?
There's a lilac hedge all around our property, and the fencing is on the inside of the hedge, so that you have to look through the hedge to see the fence.
Pretty hard to see.
And it's obviously,
Yeah.
it's not there for any kind of aesthetics. It's there just to contain the dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I shouldn't say I would not be in favor of a wire mesh fence that's visible from any main thoroughfare. So from that point of view, I don't like just topping off an existing fence, which in itself strikes me as not particularly appropriate. But if it can't be seen, and that's the reality of it, and this is the most practical way for you to go, I probably would not oppose it. I can't say I like it.
All right, thank you. Catherine.
Yeah, I have no real objections. I think actually with all the foliage and the greenery around that fence that it really won't be very visible most times during the year. And I think it's very appropriate to put the other side, or the white picket fence, to match the existing on the other side of the walkway. So I have no objections.
Thank you, ma'am. Melinda.
I'm fine with it. I think it disappears. I hope they don't lose their hedges for some reason down the way. But at the moment, I think it's fine.
And Luis.
I think that as long as what is a Cocker Spaniel or?
Yeah, Cocker Spaniel puppy.
As long as he agrees, I don't see any problem with the fence. This is a practical matter. It's just to contain the dog.
And Dennis, you dropped out and in again. Do you want to comment on this, or did you miss our discussion? But now you're muted. Oh, I can't hear you, sir. Well, in the meantime, let me see if there's is there any public comment on the application for 8 River Street to modify the fence? Dennis, did you have any comment?
No, but I'm having problems with my computer, so I'm probably going to drop out here.
Okay. Was there any public comment? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any. And my sense is that, first of all, this is sort of an in-kind. It's barely a modification to that fence. So I think painted green, as long as it doesn't become more prominent, I have no strong objection.
Yeah, the post and the wood, which is, as I say, they're weathered in right now, and the new ones will weather in. We'll just let them weather so that they blend in with the existing lilac.
It sort of reminds me of this area in the 40s. This is the kind of stuff you would see around.
Good.
So it's
That sounds like him.
It sounds like him.
Thank you, Peter.
I didn't mean to insult you. That was not my intent.
Thank you, Peter.
We're showing our age.
You want to?
Well, my mother grew up in Maynard, so this just.
Is there anything else you want to say before we drop dead?
No, I love this area. That's why I live here. I love all the charming oddities about Concord. All right, so I think we've had all of our public comments. So I think I'm going to look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application of 8 River Street to increase the height of the existing fence along the south side of the house adjacent to Main Street by 10 inches and to install a new section of capped picket fence along the northern side of the front walkway to match the existing cap fence along the southern side of the front walkway.
And can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Melinda, second. And now, Dennis, you will be the only non-voting member, but you can vote anyway. All right. I'm just going to go around. All in favor? Dennis, what do you think?
I'm in favor. Yes, absolutely.
Luis?
I'm in favor.
Melinda?
Yes.
Catherine?
Aye.
Paul?
No.
And I'm an aye. So we've got a 4-1 in approval. So thank you. So you are approved to do your work. And I think we have no further comment.
Thank you. And Maggie the dog, thank you too.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Our next, where is our, okay, next here is 344 Barrett's Mill Road. This is a certificate of appropriateness to replace a driveway. So the application is to replace asphalt with top coat, just a different material? Is that what we're looking at here?
No. Hi, Peter. Jeff Van Dyke,
Hi,
344
Jeff.
Barrett's Mill.
Welcome. Could you tell us what's going on here? Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, my reading of the guidelines was that wholesale replacement, even if it was exactly in kind, still required us to come before the commission. So,
okay.
yeah, a very old drawing, but I mean, I'm happy to go through what we're doing,
just
the
walk us
narrative,
through it.
and
that would be
yeah.
great. Thank you.
So essentially, you know, we've been here a little over 20 years. The driveway, original driveway, which was done by the previous owners, was done to guidelines, so it was top coated. That's deteriorated badly over the years to the point where there are some structural holes. And so we felt compelled to make sure that this was fixed by winter. Yeah, we should. My wife took some lovely photos.
That looks bad.
But in any case, as I said, when we did some work a few years ago, we did decrease the width of the driveway as you see it from Barrett's Mill. But this project is to replace the exact footprint of the driveway as it is to the guidelines, which is, you know, with the chip seal over the black asphalt.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Are there, I'm going to go around real quick. Are there other, there's no other component to this application, I don't think.
There is not.
There's not. All right. So let me go around. Paul, any thoughts?
No comments.
Catherine.
Sounds like a timely a redo of the driveway. So.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Melinda.
I think it's fine.
Dennis.
No problems.
Luis.
Fine with me.
And I have no objection to filling in the geological gaps there. So is there any public comment on 344 Barrett's Mill Road replacement of existing driveway? I'm looking at the remaining guests. I see none, so I'd look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application of 344 Barrett's Mill Road to replace the current asphalt driveway with a driveway with a top coat rolled into asphalt, with the driveway layout remaining the same as the existing.
And a second on that? Second. All in favor? Paul? Aye. Catherine?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Dennis?
My non-vote, yes.
Luis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So, Jeff, you're all set, and good luck with the work.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for the application. All right, folks, our final guest for the evening, 15 Monument Street. This is, pardon me, an application to, let me see if I can read this correctly. This is an application to replace and modify some chimneys, install safety lighting, remove an air conditioner condenser, install hood vents, signage, and sign lighting. I think that's right? Not site lighting, sign lighting. So Patrick, I see you're here. Would you mind walking us through the application, sir?
Sure. So this is adding on to the many requests from last year. And we're, just to give everyone an update, we're slowly making our way through various plans and approvals, but hopefully we'll begin more action soon.
Looks great so far, I would say.
Thank you. So there are 4 categories of requests, and we've spelled it out. You could even just go through the slides, but the first one is the chimneys. Well, there are chimneys, some small safety lights, removing air conditioner, and the signage. So on the chimneys, one of the chimneys has an indent in its design, the west one. But both chimneys, by the way, are structurally unsound. So we looked into whether we could repoint the bricks, and they're just too far gone. A big storm could bring one or both down, we think. So we're going to rebuild those. We're asking to rebuild those in kind. But you can see on this one, there are two different styles. The style on the east side allows us enough room for the flues to make it functional with the modern safety in mind. The style on the west side, even though I very much like that indent, doesn't allow enough room for the flue to fit. So request number one is whether we can rebuild both of those in kind, but making them both match the east style. So the indent on the west would go away, but every other detail that you see there would be replicated in the revision of the chimney.
Yep, makes sense.
So then, should I just go through all four
Sure,
requests?
that would be great. It would be great to walk us through it, please.
Okay. So you'll recall that we're rebuilding the ramp at the front of the building to make it ADA compliant. There is a ramp there now, but it's not ADA compliant. And so last year you gave us approval to do this new shape. And so what we're asking is if we can put in some small safety lights sort of midway up the columns, just so that at night or if need be, we can have some light on that in case it's slippery or just not so well lit. And if you go down a little bit further, you'll see the type of light well, that shows you the spots. So there are 8 of them, and they're just on the columns, sort of midway down each column. And then that shows you the light. They're quite small, and they would just be shining downward, not in any way upward, and only on when need be. If for some reason there were an event being held at the gallery into the evening. So that's request number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Request number 3 is it's barely visible from Lowell Road, but it is technically visible, and that's to take out that old air conditioner condenser, and on the upper part to install 2 little vents. And there's for a small kitchen that we're going to be putting in, and that's the style of the vents. So they'd be made out of copper, 6.5 square inches each. One's an intake, one's an exhaust. So they're hidden. They're not visible from Monument Street at all, and they're barely visible if you look across the parking lot from Lowell Street behind the Colonial Inn. Mm-hmm. So that's the third one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you can see where they would be visible. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth request is with regard to the signage. So we want to replace the signs that were there for the cottage. And this is just to remind you some of the historical signs that we found record of. And what we'd like to replace it with is smaller versions in all cases. If you could go down a little further, this is the design that we've come up with. We're calling the building the 1780 house as a bit of a reference to the first building of it. You'll remember that this was built first in 1780, but then it was moved twice. And as it was moved, it was added on to. And so we wanted to find a way to somehow represent that history as well. And if you go down a little bit further, please. We did the specifications with our new proposed signage, but the one on the left is what the sign would look like on the front if we did it in the same size as the cottage sign. And it just didn't feel to us that there was a need for a sign that big. So the one on the right is the one that we're requesting, which is about 25% smaller. And these are wooden signs with metal around them, and the letters and numbers are in aluminum and sort of roughed up and painted black, very much as it looks here. And if you could go down a little bit further, please. This is the back. The one on the left is the size of the cottage sign, the last cottage sign, if we were to replicate that. And what we're requesting is to make it smaller. Again, it doesn't feel like to us that there's any need for it to be that big. So this one I think is around 25% smaller as well than the old sign. And then the sign on the bracket, the one on the left is the size of the old cottage sign. The old cottage sign was that size, but it also had something hanging down off of it as well. So it's a little bit misleading, but we took the fixed part of the sign for our measurements. And what we're proposing is smaller and square, the one in the middle. And then on the right-hand side, it's just a bit of a close-up view of what that would look like. And that would be obviously double-sided. The others, obviously, on the building would not be. And if you could go down, please, a little further. That's our calculation of the difference in size between the cottage signs and what we're requesting. So 25, 24, and 16% smaller. And then this is the inspiration. So you can see there's the numbers and the letters we're hoping will be raised in metal, painted black, just about an inch or so, or I can't remember the exact, 3/4 of an inch off the surface. The surface itself will be painted wood with the planks the same dimension, the same width as the planks on the face of the building. And then wrapped around it will be steel, painted black. And if you go down a little further, please, just gives a little bit more detail. So the face of it is wood painted white. So, you know, we talked to all sorts of different sign makers and everyone was suggesting these various synthetic materials, which I just wasn't quite comfortable with. So what we're proposing is metal. You can see with the G an example of what it would look like. So they can cut it out in aluminum and they rough it up a little bit, raised a 1/2 inch. And then around the side is steel that's shaped and then painted black. And if you go down a little bit further, the lights, the existing lights are on the big bracket, and I just don't think they're very attractive. I also don't know, I don't think they contain or direct the light very well. So what we're suggesting is a light that's a little bit similar. We looked around to see if there was historical precedent, and that's what the street lights look right in front of the building. And so we tried to find a light that looked a little bit similar to that, but would direct the light much more specifically on the sign. There'd be no lighting on the signs on the building itself, just on the sign on the bracket. So I think that's it. Those are our requests.
Thank you, Patrick. I just want to thank you for a bracingly complete application. I just want to point out that the light fixtures shown on the sign example a couple slides back, those are the same light fixtures, are they not? The one that showed the greenhouse, these here, are those not the same?
As similar as we could find to that.
Okay, they're similar.
And in keeping with the shape and the color of the street light right out in front.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's a very thorough presentation. Again, thank you. I'm just going to go around and see what commissioners, if folks have any comments. I'm just going to go in order on my screen. Luis, you are first on my screen.
I have no comments. I'm dumbfounded, but I think that the application is very complete and I cannot find any objections to it.
Let the record show. Paul, I'm just going in order.
I parrot Luis's observations. I think the application is very complete and persuasive.
Catherine?
Patrick, I think, as we know, is always very deliberate and sensitive and detailed with the application details. So I'm completely content with what I see. The copper vents are very discreet, and it's a great solution for the removal of the AC. The new lights on the walkway and sign seem also very much in keeping and discreet. The indent in the chimney it's charming, but the necessity of the flue makes the change a practical decision. So I'm fine with that as well. And I think the smaller signage is definitely an overall better balance and scale for the building. So I'm happy to see that as well. And I like the metalwork signage. So happy,
Thank you.
content with all of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Catherine, Melinda, any thoughts?
Well, I just wish I was as articulate as Catherine. I thought it was great. And I definitely love the signage being smaller too. I think that's a great asset.
Okay, thank you, Melinda. I see Dennis dropped off. Patrick, my only question was about those safety lights. Are they surface mounted? It looks like, and the owners I asked, it looks like they're about 5 inches long.
Well, that's definitely not what I have in mind. So if that's the case, then we would replace it. My understanding is that they're a couple inches wide, surface mounted. Maybe could we go back and look at that? I asked our architect to spec something that he thought would be as discreet as possible.
Okay, so it looks like it says on the cut sheet there, it says wall level, so it does look like they're surface mounted, but that whole 5-inch thing has to be recessed into the post. No,
I'm sorry,
further up there, Heather, the lights on the ramp.
Right, exactly.
I think that's 2/7/8 by 5 inches.
There it is. So see the
But
diagram on the
that
left
may be
there.
the whole unit, because actually the part that it's over the surface, it's an inch.
Right, that's just an inch by 3.5 that shows, but that
That's right.
piece has to be recessed into the post. I just wanted to make sure that
I
was
think
the
that's
case.
right. I think that part is recessed, but the part that should be visible should be very, very discreet.
Yeah.
So if someone can read this, what is 3.5 inches?
It's 3.5
by
by
3.5.
It's the little bronze piece on the right.
It's
That's
a ring and
okay. That was my only question. All right, I have no objections. Again, I think this is a terrific application and in keeping with the rest of the work that's been done on the building. And thank you again for working so diligently to preserve that structure. So I'm going to ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on the work proposed for 15 Monument Street? Seeing none in the gallery, I'd look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness with respect to the property at 15 Monument Street, including the rebuilding of the chimneys, modifying the west-facing chimney design to make it comparable to the east, installing the safety lights on the new ADA ramp, removing the AC condenser and installing copper vents for the kitchen stove hood, and installing the signage along the lines as was displayed on the cut sheet with modified lighting.
Thank you, Paul. Could I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? I'm just going to go around the horn. Paul made the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Melinda.
Aye.
Luis.
Aye.
And I approve as well. So, Patrick, you're all set. Thank you again for such a great application, and we'll look forward to seeing these improvements.
Thanks for your ongoing support. Have a good night, everyone.
You're welcome. You too. Thank you. All right, folks, that's all of our applicants. So we're on to other business. Let's maybe just keep charging, or do people need a bio break? No, let's keep going. Because our guests have waited it out with us. 70 Monument Square, the rectory is our first additional business item. I see Martin is here. We had a site visit this morning. I at least saw the brick mock-up. You may all have discussed landscape as well. And this is, so the request is an amendment for a few landscaping changes a slightly different location for the statue and the approval of the brick mock-up. So, Martin, do you want to walk us through just very briefly what you all showed us this morning at the site?
Sure. I think the two key developments are the change of the sculpture location. It's essentially a refinement. It's placed in that yard shared between Monument Hall and the Rectory. But as you can see in that site plan drawing, it has more kind of clear and consequential location than it did the last design you looked at. So the statue will align with the center of that north facade of the Rectory, as well as this very tall and prominent window on Monument Hall. So that's kind of, then there's some refinements and basically clarification of landscaping around the edges of the Rectory on the north side and east side, essentially repurposing existing plantings that are at the building. And then there's the brick mock-up. So
all right,
brick mock-up is something we looked at this morning, and I think the key thing was to look at is the proposed materials and how they match up with the color and texture of the existing materials.
All right, so let me just see, thank you, Martin, if there are any comments from the commissioners. Catherine stepped away, so let me see if Paul has any comments.
No, I don't. I was present this morning. I think it looks good.
Luis?
I walk around it this afternoon and I think it's fine.
Thank you, Melinda.
I was there this morning. I couldn't believe they got those bricks that look so much like the ones that are existing. And I thought everything looked fine.
And Catherine?
Agreed. I thought the brick match was great. The placement of the statue looks like it'll be fine as well. So I have no objections to any of it.
And I feel the same way. So let me see if there are any, well, I think we do want to take a vote on this. So is there any public comment on these modifications to the 70 Monument Square application? I'm looking around. I don't see any. So would someone please make a motion?
I move that we approve the modifications, the amendment to the request to 70 Monument Square for changes in the landscaping, a new location of the statue, and the existing brick walls.
All right, all in favor. Oh, I need a second, sorry.
Second.
Second, all in favor. Paul?
Yes.
Hi, Catherine.
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
And Luis?
Aye.
And I as well. Martin, thank you for the mock-up of the visit this morning and for waiting till 8:45.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Please keep us posted how it's going. It looks like you get a lot going on over there.
We will. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Good night. All right. Let's see. 399 Lowell Road. We have an amendment request.
Request.
This is, pardon?
Extension request.
Extension. Sorry. Extension request. This is to add an exterior door to a storage space below the new mud room.
No, the 399 Lowell Road is.
Sorry, that's 20 Bow Street.
Away.
Oh my God, sorry, it's been a long day. So I think this is just to an extension. Okay, this is the 3-car mud room renovation of existing building. Okay, this is the, I know this house we visited. This is, drawing a blank on the name.
Julia Minor.
Yes, Julia Minor. I have no objection to extending this, to give a grant extension. Anyone have any objection? All right, so do we need a vote on this and all? Okay,
Yeah.
so someone please make a motion.
I move we approve the extension of the application of 399 Lowell Road for a period of that was previously approved, that expired on August 6, 2020, for a period of 6 months.
Second? Someone?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? And well, let's do a hand vote here. I'm going to read your names off. Paul, Catherine, Melinda, Luis, and I all say aye. All right, that's done. Now, 20 Bow Street, we have an amendment request. This is to add an exterior door to the storage space below the new mudroom to keep bikes, snowblower, other garage type items. Door would be perpendicular to the road, only marginally visible, helps to break up the large field of stone veneer. It would be stained wood that matches the new front door. And there's a picture of it right there. So we all visited this site. We approved the work of adding the front porch. I think there was the landscape work, and now this is adding a second door. Right, that's the application. Okay. Is anyone from the from 20 Bow Street here, or we're just doing this?
This
Hi,
is
David. There you are.
Hi, this is David, and
Nice to
Greg
see you.
Legault, our architect, is I think also.
Hi, Greg.
If you have any questions?
I'll go around the horn. I don't have any questions. Paul, any questions?
No.
Catherine?
No questions, no objections. I think the addition of the door within the stone is nice. I agree. It breaks it up.
Melinda? Thank you,
It's
Catherine.
fine. It's fine.
Okay, thank you, Melinda. Luis?
No objections.
And I have none as well. Is there any public comment on this amendment to 20 Bow Street? There's no public around to make comment, really. But may I get a motion from the commission, please?
I move that we grant the amendment request for the certificate of appropriateness at 20 Bow Street to add an exterior door to the storage space. And that the door be stained wood door, which matches the new front door.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Paul, Luis,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Melinda, and I'm an aye as well. All right, you're good to go. Thank you, folks. Thanks for waiting to the end of the meeting.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, now we are, poor Matt has waited till 8:55. We're going to talk about the expansion of the historic districts. Now we have 21 Thoreau Street, which is an extension of the Main Street district. And I think that's non-controversial. And then we have the Jenny Dugan Road. And hold on a sec, sorry, I'm just reading. And so I actually am drawing a blank at the moment. What was the proposed next step? We're going to do a site visit?
Yeah,
Jenny
so I had
Dugan?
emailed out the survey results to everyone.
Yes.
And since I emailed it out, we got one more in support of the establishment of the district. But we did want to set a date for a commission site visit to walk the neighborhood, and then possibly set a date for the neighborhood public meeting.
Okay, and what I recall, and I'm looking again, we had one no. I didn't count how many yeses and several maybes in terms of the survey. Matt, have you seen the survey results?
No, I don't think so. But I heard the results. I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
seen
Are we able to share these,
any
Heather,
comments.
with the public?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, Heather told me what the count was. I was curious to know who the no was. I think I knew who it was. And I just want to go talk to them, see what their concerns are.
Okay.
I don't know if it's possible for me to know that or not.
Well, it's a good question. I don't know.
Public info
God,
or not?
I really don't want to have to involve town council. I wonder,
I
is
think
this something
maybe
Jane?
Once we get to the public neighborhood meeting, I think it would
Yes.
be more appropriate once people speak up then. But just because the surveys aren't written as like a letter for a public hearing or anything. So I think we should probably wait to share the individual like survey results or which neighbors were in support and which were not until the neighborhood meeting.
I can tell you the Anderson Miller family both said yes. Just so you
Are
know.
you, are you concerned about the one objector, or do you feel that there was a pretty
I'm not,
overwhelming support?
I think it's less about that and more that when we do finally get to public meeting or a town meeting, it would be much better if this were a fait accompli and all the, you know, the sort of static was worked out
I was
beforehand.
curious too how the people that don't live in the deck houses feel.
That's a good
So could I?
Yes, Paul.
I think just so that we don't mislead here, I read the comments and I won't particularize or use names. There was one outright opposition, but a number of comments were equivocal. Things like, my house isn't one, so talking about preserving the whole neighborhood doesn't make sense. What are the implications of its being an historic district? So it's much more than just, well, I won't say much more. There is more meat on the bones than just a single objector. And so I think you're right. This should be taken up at the public viewing or public meeting that we have on site.
Okay, agreed.
Well, not on site. The site visit would just be commission members. And then we'll schedule like a public neighborhood meeting to happen either during one of your scheduled meetings, before a scheduled meeting, that sort of thing.
Okay. Now, so the question is this, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but practically speaking, if 6 or 8 of us show up, we can't ask the neighbors to just stay in their houses. I mean, people could come out and walk around with us, right? I mean, it's not like unless we disguise ourselves somehow as utility workers or something.
Right. I think we just make it clear we're not discussing it right now. We're just out here to walk the neighborhood and see it in person. Okay. And I think that's why we should set a date for the public neighborhood meeting now so that we can
see. Okay, that's a good idea. All right, so I think time is getting short because it's already October, so we don't want to wait really any longer. So the question, I guess, for the commission is, what's the easiest way to schedule a site walk? Should we just try to do it on our rhythm of every other Thursday? I know people's schedules are a little bit less something, but tend to be also more complicated just in general. So, but I think most people are back from travel at least. So I'm going to suggest we try to do it on a Thursday of an HDC meeting. Does that make sense to the group? I'm just sort of looking around.
If I may suggest, I believe that we should do it earlier than at the Thursday of the meeting. Maybe we can do it Thursday next week. Because I had the opportunity of walking around and driving around several times the neighborhood. And this is a precious environment. You see, this is probably one of the most iconic architectural places that exist in the whole of the United States. And from the perspective of the deck houses, I think that it's a very important task for this commission to accomplish the preservation. However, we need to address some of the concerns of the neighbor. There are some neighbors that actually do live in deck houses that don't want to have a historic designation, and that's their prerogative. And it's going to be up to the other neighbors and to the argument that we make to persuade them. But there are some other issues that are very legitimate, which is that there are people who live in houses that have no historical significance. They are not deck houses. And they are sort of a run-of-the-mill conventional contractor houses or conventional architectural houses, which derive no benefit from being in a historic district. So we need to find an argument by which those neighbors will feel comforted or reassured that they can proceed with whatever modifications they want to make according to the current architecture of their houses. And I think that we should address that specifically, especially when we have a neighborhood meeting.
Okay. Agreed. So we could try to schedule this for, and Matt, obviously we'd want you there, I think, to guide us. You know, we can effectively do what we want. This would be, as Luis is suggesting, Thursday, October 8th weather permitting at some point in the day, I suppose, let's say 8:30 in the morning. I don't know what part of me doesn't want to interrupt the rhythm of the neighborhood, like if there are school buses and what have you, that I don't want to get in the middle of that. So I don't know, Matt, what the rhythm of the neighborhood
There wouldn't be any
is.
school buses after 9, because that's when the elementary school opens.
So would the group, at least on the line here, be up for, let's say, a 9:30 or 10 o'clock site visit on the morning of Thursday, the 8th of October? And Matt, would you be available?
Be there.
Okay. Paul.
Yes, I would like to be at this event. That I can't do. I'm traveling from the 7th to the 12th. I could do it on the next week or 2 weeks later if we're doing it on a meeting day, but I can't do it next week.
Well, you're a pretty important person to be there, so I would like you to be there too. Did you say you're leaving on the 7th?
Yeah,
Okay,
any dates other than the 7th through the 12th.
7th through the 12th.
Well, we could do it on the 6th.
Do it on the 6th?
Doesn't make any difference. We could do it on a Tuesday or a Monday.
October 6th is Monday, isn't it?
Tuesday, actually. The 5th is Monday, 6th is Tuesday. So we could either do it before, that's this coming Monday or Tuesday, or we could do it on the Tuesday or Wednesday of that HDC week. I don't have any particular restrictions if we do a 10 in the morning, a 9:30 meeting. Paul, do you have a preference before or after you go?
I can't do Monday the 6th or the 5th. I can do the 6th if need be. I'd prefer to push it off a week to the, after the 12th.
13th. How's Tuesday?
If it's Tuesday, I'll go. I'll be there.
Tuesday the 13th, any particular objections? It's before the next meeting, but only by a couple of days. How's that?
That'd be fine.
Okay, so why don't we propose that as our site walk? Matt, would that be amenable? All right, and let's say 9:30 to 10:30. I mean, I think an hour is probably enough. Yeah. Depends what's going to be served for food and beverages. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just made a joke about coffee and donuts.
Oh.
But
I was thinking of champagne and orange juice.
All right, Jay,
Sounds good to me.
Now this will be effectively a tour of the neighborhood, but not a discussion. This is really for us to see it together, ask questions. Well, it's a site visit, effectively.
Right.
And then why don't we go ahead and schedule the public meeting? Now, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. Does it need to be on a particular day, Heather? Like, do we need to, should it be in an evening?
It should be an evening meeting. I mean, you could do it before, like at 6 o'clock on November 5th. You have a meeting on November 5th, so you could do it for an hour before. I don't know, Heather, have we received applications for the November meeting yet? Do we know how packed that agenda is? Or is that deadline coming up?
The deadline isn't till the 13th.
Oh, okay.
Can I just interject a quick thought here? Because we've done public hearings, obviously not on a proposed historic district, but on other issues. I think an hour is way too
short.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The one thing
for a public meeting
is to, I mean, this is really an educational opportunity for those who attend. And so you don't want to shut people down at that point in time, because that doesn't promote your goal, if the goal is to create a historic district. So
that's a good point. And now I'm thinking, Jane, thank you for reminding me. I think this is a chance for us to get our collective ducks in a row. So if the HDC is making a pitch for another district, that's almost separate from Matt and your folks who are in this proposed district, we've got to have our arguments straight and be in agreement among ourselves as much as anything else to talk about why and what the advantages or disadvantages, or is this a good idea or not. So I'm looking at, I think we should take a little more time. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is that I know Kate was one of the people that was going to help charge ahead with this, and she's had a couple of different challenges. I don't remember who else was volunteering
It was me, and I have been doing a lot of work on this subject. And I have to say that the draft of the proposed of the arguments for the proposed district is very, very complete, and it has as much information as you may want to have, because that's basically the same information that I collected on my own. The only thing that I'm adding in order to make an argument for the viability of a historic district is to make an economic assessment of the district itself. So right now I have managed to get from the records of the town data such as the year that the house was built, the last time that it was sold, the assessed value and the sale value and things of that sort. And I'm trying to make an argument to say that creating a historic district will not have any, my argument is to show what are what's the impact of a historic district designation in the economics of the houses in Jenny Dugan Road, and that's what I'm doing right now.
So, Luis, is there a way to summarize that? Not right now, but to send that to Heather to share with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you think, given what you just told us, we would be ready for a public meeting, say, a month from now, in early November? Or is that too soon?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
We definitely, in 2 weeks, we can have all that information.
Well, what I want to do is make sure we have enough time to both visit the site, sort of digest what you're doing, and then be ready in conjunction with Matt to be ready for a public meeting where, a lot of it will be input, but we should be ready to, answer, and we'll have a presentation, I think, to make. What I'd like to do is make a presentation present the warrant article essentially and why we're arguing for it. So why don't we take one step at a time? Let's not set the meeting date, or maybe we could tentatively set the meeting date, Heather.
When we set a meeting date, I want to have enough time to send letters to all the property owners about it. So we need enough time scheduling that to mail notice to everyone. So I just don't want to run into, we find a great date, but it's next week.
I'm thinking at the earliest it would be the end, first week in November, I think. If we could find it. Matt, yes.
I just wanted to raise my hand. So I think earlier I looked at our historic guidelines for Concord, and also the ones that the folks in Lincoln shared with us for their modern historic district. And it was interesting because I think this is going to be an important question, and you're going to get a lot of people asking about what does it mean, how it would affect my house. And I didn't realize how detailed Concord's guidelines are in comparison to Lincoln. And so there really is a lot of nitty-gritty in there. And Lincoln excluded a lot of things from their review that Concord does review, such as color. So to the extent that you could start to draft the guidelines and figure out what really is essential and what is not essential, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Doing that before the community meeting.
Yeah, I think we kind of discussed that at the last meeting, that we wanted to wait to find out at the public neighborhood meeting what the consensus was before we did all that work. Because we can always submit the warrant article And then we have from December, when we submit the warrant article, until town meeting to kind of get those guidelines together. And we could continue to have public neighborhood meetings to get feedback on those guidelines that we put together. But I think our major thing is trying to figure out if we want to submit a warrant article in December.
Well, maybe then if I could phrase it this way, so rather than getting into the specifics and the nitty gritty, just being prepared to talk about the question of how would guidelines differ for the mid-century modern district versus the earlier districts. I think there's I've been getting a lot of questions about that.
And if I may, Matt, I think what I would almost say is the way we would probably look at it first is how do our existing guidelines apply to a mid-century modern house? So I'm doing a little bit in reverse. Like if there were a deck house somewhere in another district and they came to us and wanted to put an addition on, we would have to apply our current guidelines. And the question is are there any deficits? Do we have things in our guidelines that are either, square peg in a round hole, that kind of thing? So I think that's, Luis, that's what you're probably trying to get at.
Well, I believe that the guidelines accommodate the creation of a district composed of modern houses, especially where in this setting, there's a road that celebrates a very important part of the history of Concord, which is Jenny Dugan. And then there's a second one, which celebrates a very important part of the history of the United States, which is the period right after the war. That's where the deck houses were invented. And when you read about the deck houses in the 1963 May issue of the Architectural Record, there's an incredibly compelling argument that reflects, the optimism, the economy, the plan to get to the moon, and all those things. So I think that there's a very compelling argument to make this a historic district. The only thing is that we have to be able to articulate it very well so we can convince other people, because it's not going to be a straight shot.
Paul, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was really this is really directed to Luis, but it seems to me that a compelling question is the economic impact of an historic district. So in the work that you're doing, Luis, I infer that that's part of the analysis you are doing.
Well,
and if not, how do we get at that? Because if we can't show that it's price neutral or enhancing to have an historic district, and that it's not impossible to modify your home after you own it or to sell it, if we can't make that argument, we're dead.
That's exactly the argument that I'm trying to make. The first part is to show that there's no difference between the Jenny Dugan neighborhood and other neighborhoods, including those that are within historic districts. So we have to find some parameters that will tell us that those districts behave the same way. So if we can show that there hasn't been any impact for having a historic district designation in the houses, let's say in the Revolutionary Road historic district, or that it has been enhanced. And that those houses were no different from the houses that are currently in Jenny Dugan Road, then we can use that as an argument.
Yeah, I understand the question, but what data? We need sales data over 30 years, and we need probably town assessment data over 30 years.
We have town assessment data, and we have the last sale data and date.
I think we kind of ran into this question when we were looking to expand the Main Street Historic District a couple of years ago, and we kind of figured out it's really hard to prove, because even pulling that data, it doesn't take into account like renovations that people make to their property and improvements that they make to their property that increase the value of their house over time. So it's a really hard, it's a hard thing to kind of show in data specifically because there's so many factors that affect a home's value.
No, but I beg to point to the fact that there is plenty of data that has a lot of information. For example, the assessed value of the houses. It's a very reliable indicator of how good the house is, to put it in quotes. And the other factor is the spread between the assessed value and the sale value as a function of the date. And that's where we get into all kinds of technical things, because we can partition the whole thing by dates, because, you know, there are times, and I'm sure Melinda knows that very well, that, you know, real estate values are higher than other times. And for the same property, you pay more or less, etc. So we have to adjust all those things, and all those things are adjustable and are amenable to analysis. So I think that we can make a case. At least we can show what happens, and bring it, transport it to the Jenny Dugan neighborhood.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is, given that it's 9:15, we're all running out of gas a little bit, or at least I am. I'd like to, Luis, if you can begin to summarize and share your research, which sounds terrific, with Heather, who can then share it with us. At least we can begin to review it internally. And why don't we? Did we agree on the 13th at 9:30 in the morning, or I'm sorry, the 14th?
I think we said the 13th.
Did we say the 13th? I'm drawing a blank. Yes. For our site walk, just the commission members with, well, I think just with you, Matt. Jane, yes.
Is there any chance that I can tag along and be very quiet?
Of course you can.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I cannot go beyond 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 13th. Because I have to be somewhere else at 11:45. It's going to take me an hour to get there.
Can we start at 9, Matt? Do you think that would be all right? All right. So
what about Wednesday? I mean, what's important about Tuesday?
To me?
No. To all, to all of us. I'm saying, what's the magic of the 13th as opposed to the 14th or the 15th?
No magic.
No magic.
14th.
So, Luis, are you in good shape the next day?
I'm in perfect shape the following day, and hopefully I can see.
Oh, you're having surgery.
No, I'm not having surgery. I already had surgery, but you don't know anything about it.
So
Okay.
can everyone do Wednesday the 14th at 9:30?
Yes. And then we'll poll the rest of the commission, but let's post that. Let's take that first step. And then I don't know if we're ready to set the public meeting date yet. What I'm realizing, just all of you, is that early November is, as you know, early November. And this year it's going to be a weird early November. So, you know, election day is the 3rd. That may or may not be a good week to have a meeting, but on the other hand, maybe it's as long as I don't do it Tuesday the 3rd, I think that would be a bad idea.
Can I also offer the thought that Heather look at, we just tentatively agreed to a town meeting schedule for this upcoming year. Obviously, we're rolling dice right now, but with a town meeting in early June, so backing it up, which give you some public, I just want to give you a calendar.
Is that shareable yet? Because they haven't sent that to staff.
I will see. I mean, we discussed it. So it was discussed. It was part of our the proposed calendar was part of our agenda for this last Monday's meeting.
So it was discussed in public.
Yeah, it's discussed in public. I can either pull it up, or you can go to the select board site and pull up the agenda. It was in the packet.
Okay.
But does that mean that the warrant articles have to be in December or later? I actually don't even know.
I'm trying to remember. I think we're in December.
Oh, okay.
But no. I think it's actually early January. So, but
Oh.
I have to look at that time as very compact. I mean, people are busy, so.
Yeah.
And I'll be gone.
It doesn't buy you a lot of extra time if it's
Right.
December or early January.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like November and December is going to be when we do this this actual public work.
And like I said, we can always submit a warrant article and continue the public outreach.
Okay.
Continue getting feedback on our guidelines that we're trying to draft up until
That's
town
true.
meeting.
Because we have to amend
We
it.
don't have to have everything set in stone. We just need to get that warrant article submitted so we have a placeholder on the warrant. And if over the next couple of months we realize we need more time, like this is never going to pass at town meeting, we just pull the warrant article.
For the next year or something. Okay. All right. So I think we're set to see you, Matt, on the 14th, Wednesday the 14th at 9:30. I'm going to allow an hour and a half just in case.
Where exactly do you want to meet?
Well, that's a good question. Should we meet at your house?
Sure. You can
You're
do that.
71?
Mm-hmm. And come up the
Right,
driveway
now,
of a large area where we can spread out.
So Heather, this is not a public event, right? It's commission only, even though people could tag along and.
Right. I think people can probably tag along because we'd be on the public way on the street. We're not going to step foot on private property.
Okay. Well, let's take one step at a time. We've set the meeting. I think there may be some stuff that we'll want to communicate about beforehand, but just I'd remind everybody to just do it through Heather, Heather, just so we're all, so nobody misfires, as it were. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for that discussion. And Matt, thank you so much for being patient and waiting to the end of the meeting.
No problem.
One of these days we'll get you into the earlier part of the meeting, so you can actually go home and enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay, so are we through talking about this for the moment? I think we might be. All right, Matt, we've just got a couple other things on our agenda, but you're free to go and have a glass of wine.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather, I don't know that, I know we were supposed to read through those sustainability guidelines. Can we punt on that till next meeting?
Yep.
Please. I think just it's being late. Thank you. There are 2 minutes, which I've scanned. I did not read through them in super detail. Luis, did you happen to read through them or anyone else?
I did, but I don't remember anything about them. I don't remember seeing anything wrong, but I didn't read them in detail.
Well, what I would suggest is we approve them and reserve the right to change our minds ever so slightly if someone reads it and finds a curse word or something in there. We'll tell Heather afterwards. I read them and didn't see it. I saw nothing objectionable.
Nia gave me a couple notes from the August 6th minute.
Okay.
They were minor things, so.
All right, can I get a motion to approve these minutes, please?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes of August 6th and September 3, 2020.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I see nothing but ayes. All right, so the minutes are approved. All right, I think I'm going to try to draw us to a close here. I am just going to point out that October 15th, our next meeting, the library is coming back to look at the parking options. I would ask everyone to please look at the options are now posted on the website, and I'd like to reach a conclusion of this particular item, if possible, on the 15th. But just please look at the material. And I don't know that we need to make comments yet, but let me suggest this. If you have a reaction to that material, would you send comments to Heather before the 15th, and Heather will just gather them together and then everybody can see each other's comments so that we don't have to have a, what? We can't do that?
No.
Damn. I'm always trying to get around the rules. All right. Well,
but I have a suggestion.
Yes.
That we all write our comments.
Yeah.
And that we ask the chair to insert our written comments into the minutes of the meeting, and read a quick summary of them, so we don't have this protracted discussion when
That's what
we
I'm
hear
trying
all
to
the
avoid.
arguments. And
yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid. Okay. That's a good idea. But so if nothing else, look at the material, look at the options. There have been 2 public meetings. The general consensus is moving toward a sort of preferred idea, but I don't want to bias any of you, so you should look at them yourselves. And then we'll go from there. All right, any questions, any last requests for HDC stuff tonight? You've been real troopers. Thank you for hanging in there. It's an hour and a half, 2.5 hour meeting. And Jane, thank you for being here. And both Heathers, our faithful staff. Okay, well, I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn before anybody falls asleep on me.
I move that we adjourn the meeting of October 1st of the Historic Districts Commission.
All right, all in favor? I think somebody dropped off. I didn't even see who it was. Oh, Jane dropped off. All right, nice to see you all. Thank you all. You're the wise HDC. I'm so grateful for all of your
If
input.
I may, Melinda, if I can connect with you directly, okay, is that allowable? The meeting's over.
Yeah, well, you have to call each other. You can't stay on Zoom.
Right.
Okay, I'll send you an email or something.
All right.
Okay.
Funny business. I'm just kidding. All right. Good night, everybody. Sleep
Thank you.
well.
Good night, Peter.
Heather and Heather, thank you all. All right. Bye.